All right. So again, thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to hear about your company's role in the mining industry and your current initiatives. So why don't we begin with a brief intro of yourself, your role, and about your company?
Sure, that sounds good, Brian. First of all, I'm looking forward to the conference coming up here very soon, and thanks for hosting me today. So, the company that I'm going to talk to you about just very briefly is called Summa Silver. We're an American-focused precious metal development company with two high-grade and historically prolific past-producing projects in the southwestern United States. One's in Nevada and one's in New Mexico. Both of these places were in their day really helped shape the history of the American West in terms of their production profiles and really just these old Wild West towns that, if you've seen, many of those movies, as I'm sure everyone has, that's how I imagine these places used to be. So like I was saying, two projects, high grade silver projects, and significant amounts of gold as well. One is in Nevada called the Hughes project. That's the eastern half of the historic Tonopah mining district, where we have drilled some very strong and high-grade results over the last several years. The other one is the Mogollon mining district in southwestern New Mexico. Was the largest historic silver producer in New Mexico. And before we started working there and having some good results, no real modern exploration there. So that's the flavor of what we're working on. And the one thing I would say before I move on here is that, look, like good silver projects are really hard to find. Good high grade silver projects are even harder to find. And those two things in a place where property rights really matters, like the United States, I think helps give us a bit of a unique story. So I'll briefly introduce the team. Myself, Galen, I'm a geologist going back almost 20 years now. Founded Summa Silver in 2020. Before founding the company, managed all of the drilling for NextGen Energy and the uranium discoveries that were made up there. But really, I've been a precious metals focused geologist going back to the early 2000s. Someone that investors hear from a lot, Jordi Belfiore, corporate development and investor relations manager. Christopher Leslie, senior geologist. He's one of the guys that actually discovered the Blackwater gold deposit here in BC. So a great pedigree of discovery from him and the team. And then finally, Chris York, our VP exploration, formerly worked for Hecla and manages all of the exploration efforts in the United States. The capital structure, of course, very important. 104 million shares outstanding, $128 million fully diluted. Our working capital right now is probably about $2 million. And that gives us a market cap of about 36 million. And for us, if you look at our chart on the right, I mean, we're heavily leveraged to the price of silver. So as soon as silver turns on, we see some very nice gains there. And I think that's, if you look at the chart over the last year, that's kind of a nice position to be in, where we've consolidated quite nicely. And, I honestly, we look very closely at the price of silver. And as soon as sentiment comes into the silver mining industry, there's just so few names to own that I think Summa Silver is just one of those must-owns. Okay, so the first project I'm just going to briefly discuss is the Mogollon project in New Mexico. Like I was saying earlier, the largest historic producer of silver in the state. So a few points on the project here. Production between the 1880s and 1942, and production only shut down in 1942 because that's when America entered World War II. So all silver and gold mining in the country stopped by executive order. Historic grades in the neighborhood of 800 grams per ton silver equivalent. And we've just started exploring, really, scratching the surface, to use a cliche, 2 kilometers of the 77-kilometer of potential vein and structure present on the project. Briefly, some of our drill results, and this is a little bit backwards in that I'm starting zoomed in, and I'm going to just zoom out over the next couple slides. Where, okay, the highlight drill hole for us, 448 grams per ton silver equivalent over 31 meters. On one side of this first zone, 445 grams per ton silver equivalent over 16 meters. On the other side of this zone, this is the first quote unquote ore shoot that we've drilled that has a strike length of about 500 meters. Now we're just gonna switch angles and look at this from an underground side view. That first zone I was showing you from the surface look on the last slide is this right here. That's that 500 meters. Those dots are our holes going through the plane, going through the page is a better way to put that. Lots of good joy around this old consolidated mine. But really, if you zoom out over 2 kilometers, There's great potential along the entire 2 kilometers of strike. Our most recent holes here, MOG 2320, that's a 1.5 kilometer step out from where we previously drilled. 393 grams per ton silver equivalent over 7.4 meters. Or even here underneath this Deadwood mine. It's completely undrilled under that mine. And we know there's good grades, hundreds to thousands of grams per ton silver equivalent in that mine as well. So that's just part of the potential. But zoom out again. Here we go back to a map view of the entire project. Those 2 kilometers I originally pointed out are what I'm circling right here. There's an additional 75 kilometers of vein and potential structure on the project. And there's really good mineralization at surface in lots of places, 8,000 grams per ton, 7,000 grams per ton, et cetera. I don't need to read them all out, but there's a lot of good joy still remaining here at surface that the old timers didn't get to. And I think when I say they just scratched the surface, that's a fair thing to say. Okay, so that's the one project. The other project is called Hughes. This is in Nevada, the eastern half of the historic Tonopah mining district, where we have the eastern half of it and its extensions. And our neighbors, Blackrock Silver, have the western half of it and its extensions. And they just put out a very, very nice PEA on a 100 million ounce resource just recently. They've done about probably 5 or 6 times as much drilling as we have. But total historic production in the district produced something like 175 million ounces of silver and 1.86 million ounces of gold at grades of 1,200 plus grams per ton silver equivalent. Some of our work, 3,900 grams per ton over 2.8 meters, 536 over 18 meters, 1,450 over 3 meters. Like I'm just, that's way too many numbers for anyone to digest in one sentence. But really, the main takeaway is that over a trend of 6.2 kilometers, we've intersected zones exceeding 1,000 grams per ton silver equivalent. And it's now just a matter of drilling out around those and wrapping our arms around what could be remaining on our half of the district. Okay, so what we're looking at here, just to help provide a picture of the upside in this district, here's another long section, the quote-unquote underground side view. All of the dots are our drill holes. And what happened was the drill holes here on the left-hand side of this figure that I'm circling, those are in the historic part of the district where we're chasing veins that the old timers didn't get to, extensions of veins, parallel structures, things like that. That's where we've had most of our work done and had most of our success. And that's all good, but that's really only half the story. When you move out here to the right, this is the extension of the entire district. And this is where it's completely open for exploration, where we've drilled 6 holes, just 6, over a strike length of, 3 kilometers or so. All of them have hit some degree of mineralization, with the best one being 1,450 grams per ton silver equivalent over 3 meters here in a new vein from about a year ago. So the big question is that, okay, well, if the left-hand side of this map, over 200 million ounces of silver came from there on an equivalent basis, what's left on the eastern half of this if it's totally open and undrilled, and the only handful of holes that we've drilled have all hit something. So that's really something that we're looking to figure out here in the not too distant future.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for that in-depth analysis of your operations. Really appreciated. I guess my first question would be about your methods of extraction and mining. Can you share how your company is optimizing those methods of mining and what level of capital investment is being utilized to improve operational efficiency?
Well, this is an exploration company, so we're just in the exploration phase to start.
Right.
Yeah. So we're not mining yet. What we're doing is trying to figure out how much silver is left remaining around the old mines under the principle of the best place to find a new mine is next to the old mine. So, but I mean, like, the same question matters just on the exploration phase as well. The exploration stuff, like how are you efficiently deploying capital? And I think the main thing is that, number one, we use some modern exploration technologies, just in the way that we visualize the veins underground by creating very, very extensive and in-depth 3D models that allow us to predict, where the targets are. And I mean, out here we have 100% success rate. So far so good on there. And for exploration, it's rare. That's quite rare. But then something in like, okay, well, how do you physically discover it? And that's by drilling. You need to sample the veins at depth. And we do things like to save, to be more efficient with capital. Is we'll drill, the upper half of the hole will be a pre-collar that's really fast and we don't get any core, and then switch to a different type of drill and do what's called a core tail for the rest of that drill where we actually get core samples. So that's a good way to save, a good amount of money per drill hole. That if you average that out over an entire phase of drilling something out, gets to be very significant.
Right, absolutely. So with regards to your exploration, hopefully that goes through exploration and then into the actual physical mining. So besides those, what do you anticipate will be driving price momentum for your company in the next year?
Yeah. Well, for us, you know what? It's about exploration success, which we've always checked the box for. And I'm not trying to tap ourselves on the back by any means. It's just, that's just the reality. But for us, I think it's look at what's happening in the precious metals market and all of the bad things that are happening in the world, but more specifically the silver market, where we have large solar buildouts occurring right now that are using a bunch of silver, tens of percents of what could be supplied every single year. And the new big development is car batteries, where again, similar scale demand is probably coming in the new types of EV batteries that were announced by Samsung within the last 4 or 6 weeks. So, those are the type of things that really set silver apart. And like I was saying before, like good silver deposits are very, very rare and therefore are very, very valuable.
Right, absolutely. So, I mean, even though you're in the exploration phase, however, as an industry leader, what do you consider your company's most impactful achievement, and how has it shaped your vision for the futures in the industry as the whole, or specifically to your company?
You know what? I think our most important contribution, it is domestic supply of some of these important metals. That's really what we're looking for. It used to be like when I was a kid in the 1980s. There was an iron curtain and there was no real flow of goods or services between East and West, except for black markets, but that's fine. And then in the 90s, we had globalization and everyone was friends. And now here we are in the 2020s, and it looks like it's going back to the old ways where really domestic supply of really important and critical metals is something that I think is going to be a theme for investors and for society over the next several decades.
What other opportunities or trends do you see in your view in the market right now that could lead to future growth for your company?
I think we got the two, Brian. I think it's honestly, it's big picture where precious metals going, number one, and number two, continued exploration success.
Absolutely. What are the biggest challenges currently in the mining industry, and how's your company in a position to address them?
Yeah, for us, inflation is a big one. Cost inflation is a big one, but that's the same as it is for everyone. Finding the right personnel and equipment has also been a challenge recently in the last 3 or 4 years. Access to capital is always been a challenge for many junior mining companies, but so far, we haven't had, a problem with that. But every other, all of those risks, like and another risk is exploration risk, right? Like we could drill holes and miss. Anybody could. So, but that gets balanced against extremely high rewards in situations where junior miners are successful. And again, it comes back to there's just so few silver juniors out there, and so few that are in the United States with high grade projects that I think ours is. If you're interested in investing in these types of situations, then Summa Silver is just a must own name.